Okay, so we're back in the garden, and it's that time of year where basically I just pop in and out of the house whenever I get a chance, when it's not raining or it's not super, super, super cold, and get a little snippet of gardening done whenever I can. So I have a regular day job. I'm a manager of a cemetery, and so by the time I get home in the afternoons these days, the sun is starting to go down and it's starting to get really cold and it's really, really foggy, and it's just not as much fun to be out in the garden. So, I don't spend in the summertime, like I'll come home and I'll spend 4 to 6 hours just out in the garden doing things. But nowadays, as winter comes on, I come home and, have a bowl of soup and try to convince myself to go outside for like 10 minutes. But today I still have bulbs to get in the ground and in containers, and it's very foggy this afternoon, and it looks like it's threatening to rain. So I'm in the garage and I'm gonna plant some containers with tulips in them, and then I'm gonna run outside and plant some hyacinths and alliums in a container that has a peony in it. And then hopefully tomorrow, when I get home, we can put out all the daffodils and the crocus, and then we'll finally be done with our bulb planting for fall. And it seems weird to say fall because it's the beginning of December, but it's still technically fall until like the 20th of December. And that's really when winter comes. And for us, where we live, that really is when winter comes. January is like, okay, now it's winter time, as far as the weather goes. So, but it's like, we get in this retail mindset from Christmas, and like the retail stores are all like, oh, it's snowflakes and Santa Claus and all that stuff. But we're not quite there. And so it's still okay for me to be planting my bulbs. We don't get a hard freezes here on the coast, but we do get frost, and the tips of my grass were a little bit frosty this morning. Not frosty enough to like worry about getting my bulbs in or anything, but we're migrating in that direction, so I really need to get this project totally done. Okay, so you'll have to excuse the light over there. I'm pretty much just going to speed this process up, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what I'm doing. So I have these grow bags, and they are, I think they're 3 gallons. I'll have to double check. And I fill them up with potting soil. I use raised bed potting soil. This is the key for any containers or raised beds. And just fill it up. So I have a bunch of my bulbs in these containers, or in these bags. And then I'm just going to fill this up. I don't have to worry about drainage or anything in these containers. They're fabric. And so I don't need to do any drainage. The water will just seep out. the Curly Sue Fringe Tulip, and the Purple Flag Tulip. And then just gonna pop them all in there. See if I can get a better angle. Okay, so now that I've got those planted up, I'm going to go in the front yard and plant the last pot, and then I will give these a light watering in just to dampen the soil a little bit. They don't really need to be watered in because there's no roots and there's no blooms, but it does need to be a little bit damp, a little bit moist in there, and then they'll be left outside, but I'll leave them out on the porch so they'll get the coldness, but they're not going to get drenched in rainwater because they don't have any roots, so there's nothing for, I don't want the bulbs to rot or anything in the rain. So, but they will be left outside so they get that cold air that they need. And just in case there's not enough drainage without any roots or anything in there like that, I don't want to just leave them out in the landscape to get rotten. Okay, so you can see where I put the tulip grow bags over there. And they're a little bit under, like half under an eave, so they'll get a little bit of rainwater, but not tons, so they'll stay moist through the winter, and I could see if they dry out just by looking over the balcony there to make sure that I don't need to add any more water to them. And that's probably where they're just gonna hang out until springtime, and then I could bring them out into the landscape. This pot you have seen potted up. There's a video, I can link it down below, there's like 5 or 6 different types of spring flowering bulbs in that pot, and there's several flowering bulbs in this pot. This pot needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Look at this lily still going. I mean, it's finally done, but pretty amazing. Those usually bloom at Easter. It's almost Christmas. And then of course the super tunia is totally done, needs to be pulled out. It's just an annual, and we'll just get rid of that. Let's do that right now. Oh, already looks better. So anyways, I'll just take out the rest of these petunias, and then there's crocus and hyacinths, and I think maybe some daffodils in here. And then we have, I usually just stuff those full of annuals, and there are some mums over there now. We just moved those over a few days ago. And then in this pot, I've got, oh, I'm stepping on things. In this pot, I just put in hyacinths and alliums, and then I need to go back and finish filling up the pot. The bulbs are actually only a couple inches below, but some more soil, and I didn't bring any out with me, and I'll probably do that tomorrow when I come out here and plant the daffodils, which there's going to be crocus all around here, a big swath of it, and then we're going to do daffodils all up and down these railroad ties, and like maybe like a little bit of a swath here and a little bit of a swath here, and maybe even pull them into the landscape a little bit and bring them over here. We'll see. So we're out here in the front garden and we're going to plant some crocus and daffodils today. These are two different kinds of crocus. King of the Striped Giant and Siberia Tricolor. I don't remember which one is which. So I'm just gonna mix them up. I'm just gonna toss them in this little area that we've trenched in the mulch. Not let them go too far out into the wilderness. Okay. Actually, I want more in this clump there. Not to poke myself in the eye with this Russian sage.
You take
Smells
all the
good.
fun out of things.
It smells really good. But the plastic is easier to cut.
Oh,
Like in the summertime, it's really brittle and hard.
yeah, I don't
And
know.
it like cracks in little tiny pieces.
No idea.
Okay.
Who's yours?
All right, so then we'll. Our bulb planting project is done at last. It is the first week in December, so I'm thrilled that we're done planting bulbs, and I don't think there's really going to be anything else going on for a little while. But I wanted to give an overview of what we've done in the front yard. Not as extensive as the theme garden in the back, but still we've put in some additions. So we have a bed that goes, it's like an island right here. And we put crocus, 2 different kinds of crocus, all right around the front edge of this bed. So we basically extended the bed out about a foot. And we need new mulch, which will get done in the spring. So I wasn't worried about mixing the soil with the mulch and everything. But you'll notice in this area, this is the front area of our house. This is the road. This is the main road, and then this is the front of our house, and there's our house, and it goes all the way down that way. So you'll notice that I'm always cutting away plastic as I plant. Do it a little bit more right now. This area was covered in plastic by the previous homeowner and then mulched. But when you do that, weed seeds will just land on top of the mulch and seed, and they'll love it because the mulch breaks down. It's like great compost, and so it's not the most ideal. So we've just been cutting out the plastic as we plant. Now this whole area used to, this entire property and all the property around it used to be a rock quarry. So there's a lot of rock, and then of course they've been graveling this road for at least 45 years, if not longer, as this area was developed. And this gravel got pushed in here, and so alongside our railroad ties, it's really, really thickened gravel, but the gravel just continues basically to our sidewalk. It's pretty thick and gravel. So digging in here is quite the challenge. So all the plants that I've chosen in here they're really tough. They can either grow right on the surface like these succulents, or they're just really tough plants that don't need any kind of special soil. My only problem plants are my Rose of Sharon, and now that they're getting established, this is the Rose of Sharon, you can't really see anything. Now that they're getting established, they are leafing out and doing great, but it's all about they need a lot of fertilizer, whereas the other plants that I've planted in this area don't need so much fertilizer. So we have a burberry at the end. So there's Rose of Sharon, a burberry, a Caria japonica, and a Canomeles there. And then I have some blue-eye grass here and here. And then of course, a couple of different succulents, and then the 2 different kinds of crocus right here. And then we popped in just a few daffodils just to kind of bring in some depth. 1, 2, 3 clumps of daffodil right there. And then you could see the pot right there in the background, which I did add soil to. You'll notice in the last video there wasn't very much soil in that, but I filled it, and it has tulips and hyacinths and a peony in there. And then I always pop in some annuals. And of course that starts the next bed. You can see that I have all this rose campium self-seeded all in here, and that's one of the mother plants. And honestly, I really don't mind, because this is going to create that really beautiful cottage garden look, and that's what we're going for here. So that's the bed on this side, and then over on this side we leave this big area open, and we can take these railroad ties out, these 2. so that if we ever need access for a truck to back in here, like for a refrigerator or a new stove or anything like that, and we can just go straight to our entry and into the house. For any like big piece of furniture or appliance that needs to come in this direction, we purposely left this space open for that reason. So then we go into this bed, and I think it might be easier to film from the other way because the sun is coming up through the trees, although it does look so pretty all dappled like that. I love winter days like this. I know we're not quite into winter, but we're getting there, and sunny winter days are just some of my favorites. Okay, so, well, it's not that much easier on this side, but we'll just go for it. There's a bed that goes around this way in front of the rock here, and in this bed, I planted daffodils all along the front of this bed. And these daffodils they're considered naturalizing, and they were a mixture of 3 or 5, I'll have to double check and I'll put it on the screen, different kinds of daffodils that bloom throughout the season. So they'll be blooming, you know, through the whole daffodil season, early to late bloomers. So I think I will just come from this way. On this side of the bed, this is the far end of the bed. The north end of the bed is a winter hazel, which is similar to a witch hazel, but they don't get as big. And then I have some yellow-eye grass along the edge here. And then I have columbine. And then I can't remember what this is. I think it's angel wing. Okay, what is it? Libertia grandiflora. No, Libertia grandiflora. Panicles of white saucer-shaped flowers. I'm not sure. It was a freebie from a master gardener friend of mine, so I can't remember exactly what it looks like, but I know it gets like really tall and wispy, so I'm looking forward to that. And then this is a leprechaun plant, which I absolutely adore. Look how cute it is with the green tips and then the dark foliage. So the whole shrub will be this beautiful dark purple, but all of its new growth is this bright chartreuse green. And these get, I think, like 3 foot by 3 foot or 4 by 4, somewhere in there. So it'll be a nice big shrub here. And then we've got the daffodils will go right here in this section between the staghorn sumac and the Russian sage. And then I do have a lavender here and a lavender on the other side of the sage. And then I have another sage and another lavender, and it's like, you know, opposite, every other one. Yeah, and so then on this side, on the south end of the bed, there's some sumac volunteers, which I'll probably dig up in the spring and give away. And then we have a couple of perennials. This is a Philipendula, which gets like 3 feet tall, and then some more blue-eyed grass and another winter hazel. And then on the other side of the rock, we have Virginia or Pipsqueak. And then, of course, starts the rest of the garden on that side. And the bed, the daffodils will stop here. The bed continues just a little ways this way and wraps around like that. And then we start a second bed this direction. Our campanula is blooming. Really pretty. It's such a sweet little flower. And I'm so glad to see this color this time of year. And of course, these are our heathers here around this drain. And this one is just starting to open up, barely. But this one's starting to look really good. It's fleshing out. And then we have our pineapple sage is It's finally starting to fade, but we still have hummingbirds all over it all morning long. So much fun. And it's really, really fun to see this much color in the garden this time of year. Just not real typical even in our zone. Normally these would be done by now, but those do start blooming in the winter. So that's kind of cool. And that's pretty much sums up our tour of the spring bulb planting. And I'm not sure what'll be next, but we'll keep you in the loop. And thank you so much for hanging out with me while I garden today. See you in the next one.